All right. Moving on. We have our next speaker. He's been a close friend of Blockdown from basically the beginning. He was with us in Croatia, and he's going to join the stage with a talk called The Reality Check, The Struggles Behind Digital Collectibles. Please welcome our friend, Timothy Mangnall.
Hi, I'm Tim Mangnall. I'm the CEO of Capital Block. We are a Web3 strategic and creative agency. And today I want to talk about the challenges of integrating emerging technology, blockchain technology, into sports clubs, sports organizations, and essentially why you shouldn't do it. And why, as Felipe said in the talk before, we fucked up. And we have in a really bad way, and no one's done it more than sports organizations. So when we look at sports organizations, we work with clients like McLaren, we represent Cristiano Ronaldo, we represent Legia Warsaw, AS Monaco, multiple sports brands across the world. And when we look at what happened with sports organizations and Web3 at the beginning, when Web3 burst onto the scenes, we had punks, you had your apes, we had this meteoric rise of sports organizations wanting to jump in and trying to emulate the success of what has happened with a punk or an ape. But the problem that we had with this is when you look at a punk and an ape, that was designed by crypto native and blockchain native people. It was created by them and it was adopted by them. And that's why the price of $100 rose to $1 million or whatever it may have been. And then what the sports organizations tried to do is they tried to replicate that and then give that to sports fans. But when you look at the demographic of a sports fan, and let's talk about football fans. I'm from the UK, so your average football fan is not interested in Web3, probably doesn't know what Web3 is, and really doesn't care about the technology behind it at all. So if you think they're in the pub and they're talking about NFTs and they're talking about the metaverse and they're talking about how they've bought this cartoon character image of an of a player and how it's the best thing in the world, these conversations are just not happening. So I think what we need to do is we need to look at the market and we need to look at what clubs have done. We say all the time that sports is the route to mass adoption for Web3 and for NFTs. And we look at the clubs, we look at the players, we look at the organizations that have launched NFTs so far. We've had Manchester United, we've had Liverpool, we've had Barcelona, we've had Cristiano Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. Pretty much Messi, every single one of the biggest organizations in sports have launched some sort of NFT, but we haven't seen any mass adoption. We've seen Liverpool try and not do particularly well. We've seen Man United do relatively well. They've just launched a new collection that has done well, but we're not seeing that mass adoption. And what is the reason for this? Well, we need to look at what's really required for success and what do actually your sports fans want when they're buying an NFT. And can those sports organizations actually deliver that? Because we talk about utility, and utility is obviously never stronger from a sports organization. As a sports fan, what you want to do is you want to get closer to the club. You want to get free tickets, you want to meet the players, you want to do all of the things that make you feel like you are part of the club, that you are a fan, because these are people that are loyal. These are people that will travel all around the world and spend hundreds of dollars to come and buy a ticket, to go up to wherever the team may be playing or go to the home games. So you've got to create something that is going to be relevant for them. But as a club, you've got to manage that from a business side. And when Web3 first kicked onto the scene in a sports way, what we saw is a lot of clubs saying, we're going to give utility. And then all of a sudden, the clubs were going, oh my God, we have to engage with our fans every single day. We have to go through and we have to promise what we said we would deliver. And we're giving lifetime utility to these fans. And as a business, it becomes unsustainable. And it also starts running out of ideas, if you're promising them the world and then you're trying to deliver and build and build and build on that, it becomes very difficult. So the first thing that you've really got to look at for success is, what does the fan want? And the fan wants to be closer to the team. They want to feel like they're part of the club. So how does a club do that? And the first thing a club needs to do is they need to create a product that the fan wants that is super easy to use. When you start partnering as a football club with major third-party organizations, when you start trying to make them download crypto, go onto this platform, go onto that platform, have to transfer this, it completely loses the interest of a sports fan. And the sports fan is just going to drop out. So the first thing that's really required for success is that you need to make it an easy product. How do you integrate it into the app? How do you integrate it into their website? How do you create something that makes them feel that this is part of the Arsenal website or the Barcelona website or whoever it may be? So that's the first way to integrate it. The second way is you need to move away from this whole notion that an NFT is going to make you rich. There is a small market for that, albeit that market has fallen off a cliff in terms of your apes and your doodles and your punks that had value. But as a sports fan, you need to move away, or as a sports organization, you need to not even give the slightest notion that this NFT is going to be worth more than what you purchased it for. And you've got to talk about it as a product. Again, if I go back to your average sports fan, your sports fan doesn't care that it's an NFT, that it's built on X blockchain, that it's got this, it's start talking about minting, this and that. Your general sports fan really doesn't care. So you need to home in and you need to talk about what you're actually getting for the end fan. And then ultimately, you need to bring them into the club, as I've already mentioned. So we then need to look at how we change that narrative for a sports fan. And actually, we need to, I don't even want to say we need to rebrand NFTs or we need to get a good PR agency for Web3, which I've said in previous talks. We actually need to just stop talking about blockchain, about minting, about this, about that. Just create a product and deliver it in exactly the same way that you would if you're launching a new shirt or if you're launching a new product for a football club. These football clubs are brands, so if they are selling something, then they need to create a brand strategy around it. Now, our agency, Capital Block, we build these strategies for these clubs. But even us as a sports Web3 strategic agency, the amount of times we speak to football clubs and they say, oh, we're just going to launch it because it's an NFT, and they just think it's going to sell. So they need to change that narrative. They need to create a product that is ultimately going to be a product that's easy to buy and that they want to buy it, and that they sell it as that. They sell it as a digital collectible, or they give it away as a digital collectible. So we spoke yesterday on a panel with McLaren, and we represent McLaren and Tezos, and they've done a free-to-mint NFT. And they've had 2 million downloads. And the reason why is they've not mentioned crypto once. All you need is an email address. You go on to collectibles.mclaren, and then you can download it and you can have it on your computer. And they've created a collectible series of around 23 races in 2023, and it is the easiest thing in the world to do. And it doesn't matter whether you're 15 and you've been up and grown around crypto and fully understand it and buy skins and what have you, or you're an 80-year-old that goes to the pub and just about has internet banking. It's that simple. And that's why there's a huge success. So we need to change that narrative around how football clubs are working. And the next thing we need to stop talking about is education. We keep saying we need to educate our fans. We need to educate our fans. Education is the key to mass adoption, blah, blah, blah. But your fan, again, does not want to be educated. He doesn't want to sit there and go, okay, how do I need to learn this? How do I need to move crypto into this, into this, into this, whatever it may be. Create a product that they want. and something that is also going to benefit them. And until we see that, then football clubs and sports organizations, there's never going to be mass adoption, ever. So it's been a fairly negative talk for the last 10 minutes that I've been on stage around football organizations, sports organizations, which is probably a little bit strange considering they are our main clients. And I want to kind of dial it back a little bit because I fundamentally believe in the future of blockchain, and I think sports is going to play a key role in delivering this for the Web3 community and really drive it. But where do I see the future going? Not in the current state. We're never going to get mass adoption. And actually, most of the organizations that we see in this Web3 space that are trying to get in contact with sports organizations are going to fail. Where I see the future of Web3 going from a sports perspective is actually by creating these communities. And it's not going to be for everyone. And that's okay. We don't have to try and get every single Barcelona fan to buy an NFT. But let's say Barcelona, let's say they've got, I'll take Manchester United, they've got 1 billion fans around the world. Are we going to turn those 1 billion fans into fans of NFTs? Definitely not. But if we could build a community from a very simple standpoint, let's say we create a free-to-mint NFT. We create that free-to-mint NFT that is content, is a picture, is something interesting that's pulling in the heritage of the club. We create that and then we build that community. Then we engage with them in a really simple way, in a way that they know how. We're not asking them to go onto this platform or that platform. You're doing it through your own channels. And then you start engaging with their sponsors. And I think this is an area where actually the sports industry is completely overlooked for the moment, is how do you start creating a link between your sponsors and the football organization by using Web3. Now, sports organizations need more and more and more money every single day. The cost of player transfers are going up, the cost of running a Formula One team is going up, and the only way that they're actually going to be able to make more money is obviously by performing on the pitch and then bringing in more sponsorship, which means they need to consistently try and drive the best price for their sponsors or from their sponsors. But then the higher the price goes for the sponsors are then demanding more and more and more from those sports organizations. You take a Formula One team, for example, you've got one race weekend. McLaren have got 50 sponsors and they have to deliver advertising, they have to deliver media, they have to deliver driver, they have to deliver car content, they have to deliver social media content on just that 3-day race weekend. So the pressure on those partnership teams is rising and rising and rising. And Web3 is not playing a part in that conversation at the moment. So where I see this going is I see more and more sports organizations creating a community, creating an easy community from a free mint or a free drop, whatever it may be, and then giving benefits from their sponsors into that audience. And therefore, what they're then able to do is they're then able to create these platforms. Again, let's talk about McLaren. McLaren have got collectibles.mclaren. And what they can now do with their 2 million downloads that they've got, people going on there every single weekend to download that, they can then offer that as a branding opportunity to sponsors. And that is the first case. And then you can go to the sponsors. Let's keep with the theme of McLaren. You can then go to Richard Mille Watches and you can say, look, we want to create some content that is just going to be available to that Web3 audience, that is a super engaged Web3 audience that are coming onto these platforms every single weekend to download these free NFTs. And then you get some content, and maybe it's about the movement of the watch and how they've taken inspiration from the mechanics of the car. So then those Formula One fans are getting something back from the sponsor, and then ultimately the sponsor are getting a really, really engaged audience, which in this day and age with regards to sponsorship, with social media, with everything, is getting harder and harder and harder to do. So for me, the future of Web3 is not in sports is not about value, it's not about big user attention, it's about creating an engaged audience through free campaigns or very low entry barrier campaigns, and then benefiting that into their other sponsors and then building it out from there. Thank you very much.